Good afternoon and happy week of the young child. It is wonderful to have so many participants with us today to talk about how you can incorporate gardening into your work with young children. My name is Catherine Hansen, as you can see, and Mary and I are the food systems coordinators at WEESSN, the Wisconsin Early Education Shared Services Network. WEESSN is a program at WECA, the Wisconsin Early Childhood Association. Today we're going to talk about growing microgreens, including a live demonstration on how you can grow them. We will have some time for a question and answer session. So please bring any questions you have about the microgreen growing project or gardening. And then we would love to share some gardening techniques and a rough timeline for starting your garden this year. So the first component is growing the microgreens. And I don't have any children here with me today, but I do have a tray of soil here, and this is what I'm going to share with you. So this is a tray that I already had. It does not need to be this size for you to grow microgreens, but I happen to use trays like this. It's important that your tray has some drainage. So what I did here, again, because I already had it, is I have a tray with holes inside of a solid tray. And that way, when I water, there won't be any leakage. So if you have something with drainage, that will be great. The seeds that I'll be planting in this soil today are broccoli seeds. And I'll share with you the first step that I took. I put 1 inch of soil in the tray. I watered it to moisten. And then I tamped it down. So children would love to help you put in the soil and tamp it down so that it makes a nice bed and it's ready for the seeds. Here I have some broccoli seeds. And there is a way that you can measure to have the approximate number of seeds that you need. This tray is 10 inches by 20 inches. And so for a tray this size, a small seed like these broccoli seeds, you would use a 1/4 cup. If you were using large seeds, like peas, to grow a pea shoot, you would use approximately a 1/2 cup. But the general idea is that you're covering most of the surface of the soil with the seeds. So I'm going to take my seeds and sprinkle them across the surface. And if children were helping, they could help sprinkle these seeds too. There's not a perfect way to do this. So if you put a small amount in their hand and they sprinkle them across, that will work out great. At the end, if any areas have more seeds than others, you can gently push those seeds to spread them across the surface of the soil. So I'm just going to keep sprinkling until I have the entire 1/4 cup of broccoli seeds spread across the surface. And I'm watching to make sure that I'm covering the soil somewhat evenly. Okay, I'm almost done here. really quite a bit of seed. Okay, now that I have my seed all poured out here, I'm just shuffling them around to make sure that all the areas have roughly the same amount. Again, children would love to help with this. And then I'm going to take a small amount of the soil that I used for this. I used a seedling mix, like a seed starter mix. You could also use a potting soil that was intended for vegetables so that you know it's safe to eat. And just going to spread a thin layer across the top. They don't need to have much of a cover, just a small amount. The larger the seed, the more that you would want to give them a cover. But since these are just growing into a sprout, they don't need as much soil as a bigger plant would need. Now, this next part, children would love to help with. I've got my handy dandy spray bottle, and instead of using a watering can, which might lead to overwatering, it's very fun to help mist everything into place. If you have a cover, it can be nice to contain the moisture for the first couple of days. So this again is a cover that I had because I like to grow things, but plastic wrap, or if you're growing in a rotisserie container or an old produce container, you could take that lid from that rotisserie chicken or whatever it is, put it back on top just to hold some moisture in during the germination period. And then when you start to see growth happening, you can remove that lid. So I would like to show you also some microgreens that I started last week. These were radish microgreens, and we're about 10 days in now. And as you can see, they've really grown. They'll be ready to harvest when they're about 2 inches long. And you could use a safety scissor, or if an adult is harvesting, you could use a kitchen scissor to cut them down to the level of the soil. Give them a wash, and then you can sprinkle them on your salad, on your sandwich, or do a taste test with the children in your care. Mary, I think you have some fun things that you've grown too. Would you like to share them with us?
Yes, I want to make sure everyone can access the links that I just dropped into the chat. They are from NAEYC, and they are instructions on the microgreen project. I first dropped some links into the chat and somebody said they couldn't access them. So I played around with the permissions, and you should be able to get them. One's in Spanish and one's in English. It's the same resource in both languages. Can I see a thumbs up if people are able to access those? Great. Okay, wonderful. So that explains the whole project to you. So when you leave here and you forget everything that Catherine just demonstrated, even though she did such a great job, you'll be able to read it. So here I have some microgreens that I started growing just about 10 days ago. These are sunflower seeds. They make really yummy microgreens. They grow really yummy microgreens. Children love them. Okay, so people are having trouble with the English one. So I'll play around with that in a minute. Try it again. These are peas. Peas make really yummy little shoots. This is just so fun and satisfying for children because it grows so quickly. you can have a whole garden in 10 days. And some people like to make little fairy gardens out of these and like decorate the little tray with things, which is really fun. The last thing I wanted to show you, well, first of all, I wanted to show you this. A lot of you have probably seen this, right? Around this time of year, we have a spring basket with this green, crinkly paper. Sometimes it's plastic. I was just gifted a basket that was made by a childcare program in Milwaukee. And this is a living grass basket. Isn't that fun? So the children made paintings on stiff paper. This is a watercolor painting. The adult teacher helped the children. I mean, the adult mostly has to make the basket. It's hard for children to do something this complex, but then the children planted wheat berries in there. Wheat berries grow this lovely living grass. So that's kind of a fun spring project. It also comes up in about 10 to 14 days. And wheat berries is the same as catgrass. So if you have a cat, they love it. Also guinea pigs, rabbits, if you have any of those things, any of those animals, they also love to nibble on these grass baskets. So that's kind of fun. Okay, back to you, Catherine.
Thanks, Mary.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that we offer enough time to answer any questions that you might have come with today. So we are going to open the floor for you to come off of mute or enter questions that you have either about growing microgreens or about gardening with children. We would love to hear them.
While we're waiting for questions, it seems like some people can open that link with the PDF. So if you can't, don't worry, we'll send it out. I'll send it to everybody who registered after this training. So if you weren't able to open the link, we'll send it to you.
Hi, I do have one question. Okay, so how do you incorporate like children that have like autism or that have inclusions, like that just like to play in the dirt and throw it around and stuff? How would you go about, like directing them to like not throw the dirt or not to eat the dirt or eat the seeds or whatnot?
That's a great question. Catherine, do you want to answer that one?
That is a great question. I think the first thing that I'm thinking of is that if there was a safe space in the yard where there were where it was a less manicured area. So for instance, if there's a place where children can explore dirt and maybe they can add water to the dirt and play with it, where it's not, like we're growing something in this area, so it needs to happen this one way. If there was an area that was more open-ended, then of course it's not safe to eat the soil, and you would want to take care of your friends, but allowing some exploration within limits is one thing that I'm thinking of. And did I see Teresa put something in the chat?
Yeah, we have a couple other questions, so we can get
okay.
to them after we've answered this one.
Do you have anything to add to that, Mary?
Yeah, I think, creating a safe space for them to play in the dirt is really great. In fact, while doing this project, I might have another container of soil for that child just to play with. That it doesn't matter what happens to that tray.
Okay.
Yeah. Also keeping in mind that generally speaking, if they eat a little dirt and they eat some seeds, it's probably okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for asking. Okay, we have a couple other questions. Let's see. I'm gonna back up to the beginning of our questions. So Lee Shay wondered how to get started gardening. That's a
I
good-
love this question. And I think there are a couple things that we can think about here. One, I just want to put a plug out for the Rooted organization's Roots to the Ground curriculum. And the Rooted website has some great handouts on how to get started. I don't know if you want to drop
do
anything
that,
in the
yeah.
chat for that. Thanks.
Mhm.
And the first thing that you would want to think about when planning a garden for the first time would be selecting the best site at your program. Oh, I'm sorry, Lisha, you're trying to talk and it's not coming through.
Let me see if I can. Well, she's not muted. Yeah, we can't hear you, Lee Shay.
Oh yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
you-
I can see that you're talking.
Yeah, maybe you can type it into the chat.
Yep, so the first thing you would want to think of is selecting a site. You're going to want to make sure that it's in a place where there is enough sunlight. And then you're going to want to think about what would work best for your area. So in some areas, programs really like growing in containers, and those containers can be on wheels so that they could follow the sun a little bit throughout the day if you don't have a spot that's going to get enough sun, or if it's on a blacktop type surface, you'd be able to roll them to follow the light. And then I think the second thing I would say is start small. Start thinking of a few types of vegetables or flowers that are non-toxic, so you know that they're safe for children, and that they would be things that children would enjoy. So I'm thinking of pea pods or cherry tomatoes. What are you thinking, Mary?
Yeah, peas are a great one. Things with big seeds are really nice for children to plant, like peas. Sunflowers have big seeds. When the weather warms up, beans. Like making a bean teepee is so fun. It's not hard to do, and it's a great kind of beginner project. Yeah, I think there's a tendency to want to like do everything at once and have this huge, beautiful garden with lots of vegetables and flowers. And then it just starts to feel overwhelming. So I think starting small is a good idea. You can even start with containers. Yeah. So we have a couple of Spanish questions in the chat. Maybe Haiti or Barb and Chucho can tell us what those say.
I'm gonna go and try and find the first one. Okay, first one is from Erika. She said, it might be that you're not on a channel.
Oh, maybe that was for Lisha.
Erika says, how could I plant strawberries that my young kids just love?
Strawberries are indeed a garden favorite, and all parts of the strawberry plant are non-toxic and even can be used for food. Some people like to make tea even out of the strawberry leaves. So strawberries are a plant that produces a runner each year. So sometimes when you're thinking about planting strawberries, you're going to think about that plant that you're growing that year, but also it's going to shoot out a runner. So planning for a place where that runner might root for the next year as well is helpful. So allowing a little room in the bed would be one pointer for strawberries. I'm trying to think of what would be the key things to think about with strawberries. I think protection from animals can sometimes be helpful because birds and chipmunks and things like them too. I don't know. Do you have some strawberry growing advice, Mary?
No, those sound good. And also starting strawberries, you wouldn't start with like a seed like you do with like other vegetables or whatever. So strawberries, you're actually going to purchase the little, what are they called? Are they the runners? Like what are the things you're buying? Crowns? I don't know what.
Yeah, crowns or plugs.
Plugs. Okay. Yeah. Right. So you're actually purchasing the little root thing that the strawberries are going to grow out of the first year. And then they kind of start to spread the second year. Yeah.
One more tidbit on strawberries. Some sources will recommend that you take off the flowers from the plant that first year to encourage it to get established. So if you let the berries grow the first year, you may not get as many runners going out to make plants the second year. So you could think of strawberries as something that is a long-term investment.
Right. Okay, we have another question here about starting composting with children. I love composting with children. I think it's one of the best ways to help them see how everything is connected. It's a great daily chore for a child, like a job for a child to take the compost bucket out, put it on the pile. It's also great work. I mean, the compost pile is one of those things that once you have the elements there, you don't have to do a whole lot with it, but you also, when you have time, you can turn it with a pitchfork or a shovel or something to kind of continually mix things together. And children really love that activity. They love helping turn the compost. So that's a fun one. Just want to make sure when you start composting that you have some basic things. So you want to have green things like vegetable scraps, grass clippings, things that are kind of have more recently been alive. And then you want to have crunchy dead brown things. You want to have a lot of crunchy dead brown stuff like leaves, straw. So mixing those together, and then you want to make sure that your compost has it has an opportunity to get watered. Usually that's just the rain, and then access to some sunlight. Those are sort of your magic ingredients. Catherine, do you have anything to add?
I think I'm gonna think about critters one more time. And if you're in an area where you're concerned about rodents, having a compost that's completely enclosed could help keep it from attracting critters like mice or rats.
Yeah, rats. Yeah, you don't want those. Okay, let's see. We've got lots of questions in the chat. I would love to try planting pumpkins with the kids. Can that be done in a raised bed? Catherine, do you want to answer?
Sure. So pumpkins are a plant that will sprawl and take up a lot of space. So if you're thinking about planting pumpkins, which are super fun to grow with kids, you'll want to be planning for the space where it's being planted and then the space where it's going to sprawl out. Smaller pumpkins could grow vertically, like on a very sturdy fence, if you provide some support for the actual pumpkin, because it will be like hanging. So that could be one solution. But yes, absolutely, you could grow pumpkins in a raised bed. You're going to want to give them a lot of compost because pumpkins are heavy feeders. And that sounds like a really fun project.
As a follow-up question, someone said that they started a pumpkin jack experiment last year and have been watching him decompose, which is fun. Just one thought on sometimes when you let your Halloween jack-o'-lantern decompose, the seeds will actually start growing new pumpkins, which is great. Depending on what kind of pumpkin you started with, you may get a pumpkin that looks like the one you had last year from that vine, or you may get any sort of weird gourd if it was some kind of hybrid. But that's also a fun experiment. I've done that with children where something starts sprouting in the compost pile and we just let it go and watch and see what we get. And we've gotten some really kind of shocking looking vegetables. Here's a question. Kelly wants to know.
Mary,
Yes.
there are a couple more in Spanish that we didn't
Great.
talk about before,
Okay.
up
Good.
above. So let me look. Oh, okay. One was already answered. It said, how do we make compost with the children? Maria says, teach children to take care of the environment is fundamental. This is exciting when the children explore the land, the seeds, and see all the processes of growing plants.
Mhm.
And then Amy's telling, okay, I think. Oh, okay. They're talking again about pumpkins. Oh, Kate says Plant Dane is a good resource for the people that live within Dane County. They offer native plants at discounted prices, and also they donate to schools. We've received a lot of plants this year that are for a rain garden. And I think that's all in Spanish.
Thank you. Thanks, Barb. Great suggestions. Here's a question. Are there any suggestions for gardening with infants and toddlers?
Another great question. I think I'd love to revisit one of Mary's suggestion, which is using those seeds that are large and easy to handle. So things like even exploring seeds or giving them a place to explore the soil without an agenda. And then when that soil is ready, giving them 1 or 2 seeds and making a hole would be a way that they could be actively involved in planting. Another garden activity that I love for infants and toddlers is growing a sensory garden where all of the food, all of the plants in that garden will have a different aroma. Some of them will have different textures, and they often attract a lot of pollinators when they start to flower. So things that I like to grow in my sensory gardens are anise hyssop. And I apologize to Barb and Chucho because I don't know how we're going to translate plant names. I don't know the botanic name off the top of my head either, but anise hyssop is a great one. Sage. Let's see. Oh, lemon balm is a really lovely one, and chamomile. So they're all safe plants that children could explore, and they're somewhat hardy. They have established root systems. So if a child pulls some of the plant, it's after it's established, it's not going to harm the plant's future growth. And so it would be a safe way to explore.
Kate also suggested lamb's ear, super
Oh,
soft,
yeah.
and
Mhm. Oh,
lavender.
and mullen. Mhm. Yeah, thank you, Kate.
Lavender. Yep. Great plants for sensory experience. Okay, let's see. Going down, there's some good suggestions in the chat. Okay, so a couple of people are having trouble hearing all of a sudden. Can you, if you can hear, can you give a thumbs up? Okay. We have, if for people that are having trouble hearing, I'm gonna drop the language channels instructions in the chat one more time. I think those are our main questions. Catherine, did you want to talk about cold weather and warm weather vegetables?
Yes. Kate, I'm sorry, I'm not sure if you can hear me. I see that you are seeing Mary nodding, but okay. But some people are hearing. Hopefully the instructions will
They're
take
coming
care of that.
in.
Yeah, so we wanted to give some general guidelines for starting plants. And as we get into these, well, the snow is melting in some areas of Wisconsin, and we know that in some places you still have snow on the ground. But in these next coming weeks, you'll be able to get your garden started. So cold weather crops versus warm weather crops. Everywhere across the state and everywhere, there is a general date that is considered the date after which you won't have another frost. And that is called the last frost date. We utilize the last frost date to know when it's safe to put plants that are sensitive to frost outside. And there are other plants that you're able to put out while before that last frost date. So some cold weather crops that could go out, I don't have the date on my paper of when the cold weather crops could go out, but I think probably by the end of April, you could be starting to put them out in southern Wisconsin. And some of those including transplanting plants that were started indoors or purchased, things like broccoli, head lettuce, so a lettuce that you're going to grow into a full lettuce plant, early cabbage, onions, cauliflower, and parsley. Mary, do you want to talk about plants that could go into the ground as soon as the soil is worked? Okay.
Yes, I did put in the chat a link to a Wisconsin map that shows the last frost date. So if you click on that map, wherever you live, it will tell you your last frost date, and it can vary quite a bit across the state. So be sure to pick that. Be sure to check that before you start planting things. There's a number of seeds that when you look at the back of the seed packet, it says this can be planted as soon as the ground can be worked. So what does that mean? In many places, and it's hard to even say it by region because every little garden out there has its own microclimate. But in some areas of southern Wisconsin, the ground can be worked now. So how can you tell? If you can pick up a handful of soil from your garden and squeeze it in your hand and then open your hand, if that handful of soil kind of crumbles apart, your soil is ready to be worked. If it stays in a tight ball, well, first of all, if it's so frozen that you can't get a handful of soil, it's probably not ready to be worked. But if you can pick it up and it stays in a tight ball, it means the soil is probably still a little bit too wet for you to plant anything. But once you are able to get a handful of kind of crumbly soil, then you can put in spinach, peas, lettuce, like leaf lettuce seeds, kale can go in, and radishes. So those are things that can go in as soon as your soil can be worked. And we've already talked about peas, but those are really fun to plant with children because the seeds are a pea, so they're pretty big. So if you poke a hole with your finger, they can drop in those pea seeds all the way down in a row, and that's really fun for them. All right, so let's see. We talked about cold weather crops. We talked about the last frost date. So the next thing we wanted to tell you before we do our giveaway is we wanted to tell you about our Garden Tips texting program. So this is something new. Catherine and I are pretty excited about this. One thing we've heard from providers when we're doing coaching sessions is that people really want to be gardening more with children, but they're not sure what to do when. They're just, there's so many things, like someone gives you a tomato plant, like, can I plant this now, or does it have to wait, or how, what do I do now? And so the idea behind the Gardening Tips texting program is that you can sign up and you'll get a text from us every Monday evening that tells you something you can do in the garden that week with the children. So it's sort of a guide as you go through your gardening season. If you are a WEESSN member, you can sign up right away for the garden texting program. And I'm going to put the link to that form in the chat. So all you have to do is fill out the form and you'll be part of the program. Okay, there's the form. If you are not part of WEESSN, you need to join WEESSN, and then you can be part of the program. WEESSN is for all childcare providers in Wisconsin who are regulated. So if you are licensed or certified, you can join WEESSN. It is free to join, and there are so many benefits. So if you are on this call and you haven't joined WEESSN yet, we want you to join. So I'm going to put that link. And someone just asked, is there a way to save all these links? That's a really great question. After this call is over, after this Zoom meeting is over, I will send everybody all these links. Okay, so you will have them. All right. Let's see, before we do our drawing, are there any last questions about, are there any questions about the Garden Tips texting program or WEESSN?
Here's one. It says, do you have a supply list for the text messages? So
there's a problem. Someone is asking a question by unmuting, and I don't think she's being heard. And then you're reading the questions in the chat, so I'm not sure what to do about that.
And maybe that person is not on the English
Maybe
channel.
they're not on
That's why
the
we
English
could hear
channel,
the
or they're
person,
not
but
on
we
any
could not.
channel.
Right. If we can't hear you, it's possible that you're not in a language channel. So you can type your message into the chat. I think Alexa was the one who was asking, and she has typed into the chat, does it matter what tier you are in? No. The Garden texting program is for all tiers of WEESSN. Great question. So, Catherine, you said there was a question, or?
Yeah, the question is, do you have a supply list for the text messages? And I'm guessing that that's a text about garden tools or the supplies you would need for gardening. Am I getting that right, Nicole? Supplies needed for that week. Oh,
Oh, yeah, great idea. I like that. Yeah, we can work on that. That's a really good. Right, so if we suggest something to do in the garden, give you a list of everything you need to do that. We all know as early childhood care providers, the worst thing is to be standing there with a group of children and not have what you need. And I know it's probably happened. I know it's happened to me a number of times, so I'm sure it has happened to all of you. So that's a really good suggestion. Great. Okay. Catherine, are you ready to do the drawings?
okay, there's another idea. It says maybe if you can give suggestions for the week and a list of supplies for the next week.
Mm-hmm.
This is another interesting suggestion, and we appreciate your feedback as we are just launching this program for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm
Good.
very excited to talk about prizes because winning prizes is exciting. And today we have some microgreen grow kits. There are 3 of them. So we'll be doing 3 raffle drawings. And
Oh, I think I need to make you a co-host, Catherine, so you can share your screen. Hold on.
thank you.
I should have done that earlier. Okay, you should be good to go.
Can you see my screen?
Isn't it pretty?
All right, and all right, there's also full screen. So we populated this list by, is it the registrants or?
Yes, this is everyone who registered. So some of these people might not actually be here.
So we're going to give the wheel a spin and then you must be present to win. So we may need to spin again. Here we go.
Yay!
Yima. I think I saw Yima's name in the chat. There she is. Okay, congratulations.
Oh,
We'll be sending you a kit. Okay, so I'm going to remove her and we'll spin again.
I feel like we need some game show music in the background.
We didn't think about music.
I know. Honey.
Honey, are you here? Let's see. Honey, let us know if you are here with us right now, please. Okay.
Okay, we might have to choose another person for that kit.
Okay, I'm going to spin the wheel.
So while, oh, okay, we'll finish that and then I'll answer Jackie's question.
Valerie Johnson, are you here? Okay, well, hopefully those who.
Yes, Valerie's here.
Sure, great.
Hi,
And then-
Catherine.
Hello, I'm so glad.
Thank you.
Okay,
Excited.
I'm so
Yay.
excited too. All right, we'll give it one more spin for the third microgreen kit. Lisa Buchholz, are you here?
I see Lisa's name in the participants.
Fabulous. Congratulations, we'll be sending you a kit.
Yay, that's great. Wonderful. So we have a couple of questions that have come into the chat. Hold on, so now I lost my chat box. First of all, someone asked if you could share a link for the kit. And yeah, where can we buy them if we don't win one? So we can send that out with the list of links.
Mhm.
Catherine, I'll need to get that from you.
Yes.
Okay. And then also a question, Jackie wondered, if I live in Illinois, but would like to be part of WEESSN, is this possible? So you can live in Illinois, but you need to work in a program that is a Wisconsin program. So, yes, we do have folks in WEESSN who live in Illinois, but their program is in Wisconsin. All right.
I see there's a question about growing the loofah gourds.
Oh,
And have you grown the loofah gourds, Mary?
no, I have not.
Nor have I, but Kate, I know people who grow them here. So I think given that it's in the pumpkin family and it's a type of gourd, you should be able to, they should be able to grow as long as you're getting that planted after the last frost date. And if you grow it, I would love to hear about your experience or maybe a picture.
Yes. Which in general, I think is a good thing to mention. So Catherine and I would love to hear from you with your garden questions, ideas, pictures of your gardens as they're coming along. We just got a new email address. And it, I'll put that also in the chat or in the email that comes out to you for a way to contact us. So you can share all of your great gardening stories with us. Lastly, I want to give you the link for you to be able to get registry credit for coming today. So I'm putting the form in the chat. If for any reason you cannot open this, just send me a message in the chat with your name and your registry number if you know it, and I will make sure you get registry credit.
Sarah Cohen had a fun question in the chat. She wants to know if we have a hashtag or a way that we could be tagged on social media, and we don't yet, but it sure would be fun to have one.
I love that. I
Mhm.
feel like I'm older than the average hashtag generation person, so I never really think about hashtags, but I think that would be really fun.
I do too. Stay posted.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we've got a suggestion. WEESSN garden. Mm-hmm. Like it. Wonderful. So I'm hoping people can open that last link to fill out the form. If you cannot, please send me a message in the chat. Give me your name and your registry number if you know it.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today for Tasty Tuesday and in celebration of the Week of the Young Child. We're so excited to be here with you and to be kicking off the 2023 gardening season with you. And we look forward to being partners in your gardening efforts this year.
Yes, thank you, everyone. And we also want to thank Barb and Chucho for being our interpreters today. They always do such a great job. And also Heidi Jimenez German, one of our Spanish speaking WEESSN coaches, for helping over on the Spanish channel today. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll let you all get back to your work day. Thank you for joining us. Have a great day.
Okay. Hi, I have a question because I'm trying to do the whatchamacallit.
The feedback.
The registry credit. It says training attended. Do we just put Tasty Tuesdays
Yep, Tasty Tuesday.
and program name?
That would be the program you work for.
So the daycare I work for.
Mhm.
Okay. Alrighty. Okay, that's all I have. But I didn't. You guys didn't answer the question about the worms. Like, is it a good idea to incorporate worms into like gardening?
Oh, I didn't see that
I
question.
missed that one too.
Yeah. You
Yep.
wanna talk-
Worms are great for the gardens. Their tunnels create pathways for water to travel and they poop fertilizer.
Plus, kids love playing with them.
That too.
Yeah, they are so fun. Oh, good. I'm seeing a couple of people who have put Lishay, I see your registry number, so thank you.